And okay, so I'll start again. So welcome to Results Mastery, which is my sort of brand and something today that I call LinkedIn Mastery. I've been providing LinkedIn training now for many, many years. I will say I'm not a LinkedIn official trainer or anything like that. I just found out through literally trial and error what works and what doesn't, and now I choose to share that with as many people as I can and try and help people to raise their game and to win business from LinkedIn. Today's agenda, we're going to do a really quick introduction, which I'm sort of doing now. Then I'm going to do a session which I'm calling ideas, which is just my ideas of some of the ways that you can market your business. Georgina, hi, how are you? Good to see.
Hi, sorry I'm late. Thank you.
That's all right. Yeah, good to see you here. So I'm going to provide you with some ideas. I cannot show you everything. You know, I run a one-day workshop on this. If you want to talk to me about that, do, and I'll talk to you a little bit at the end about my online training that you may or may not be interested in. I'm going to try and give you some of the best ideas that are currently working on LinkedIn, and some fairly new stuff. Well, it's actually stuff that's been around a little bit, but is really starting to work really well. I think LinkedIn are now prioritizing certain things. I'm going to show you some of those as well. Then when I've done my ideas bit, which will be about 20 minutes, so I'll give you 20 minutes of training. We're then going to do a Q&A, so you can ask me questions about what you're doing and what you think or what I think you should do, but also everybody else to contribute to that. It's not just about you asking me questions. It's definitely a round table type thing where we can all hopefully help each other. And then right at the end, I've got a bit of an offer for you, which I strongly recommend you take up, but I'll tell you more about that at the end. What I will tell you is we're not really doing the PowerPoint thing today. It's all going to be live on LinkedIn, and I'm not here to try and sell you things. I'm not doing that. I will sell you on, well, I will make you an offer that's not going to cost you any money, that you're free to take up if you wish. But other than that, I'm not here to sell you stuff. I'm here, from my point of view, demonstrate my expertise. From your point of view, it's part of my commitment to trying to help small businesses to become more effective, which I've been doing now for, as I say, 28 years. It's 29 years on the 1st of May, which is just remarkable. It doesn't seem like it's more than 10, but where did all that time go? I don't know. But anyway, let's crack on. So firstly, I got a bit of a controversial thing to say, which you'll probably slightly disagree, but I think you'll understand by the time I explain it what I mean. And that is that all marketing works. Everything. No matter what you're doing in marketing, it all works. And when I say works, it generates business. The problem is it doesn't work all the time. In fact, I'm going to even say it doesn't work even most of the time. Most people, when they've got things like they've got a website, they're on LinkedIn, they're, on Facebook, they're doing paid advertising, they're exhibiting, they're turning up at networking events and so on and so forth. In my experience, they're doing stuff that either is not working at all, or more often it's working a little bit. They're winning a bit of business from it, but it's nowhere near as much as they could. And the question, therefore, is why is that? What is it that I'm doing that's not working? And what do I need to do to make it work? And if you think about that right across the board, I know we're focusing on LinkedIn mastery today and getting that working. But if I said your website, hands up who's got a website that doesn't really win them much business? Anybody? Or is it all working well? Okay, so we got one or two honest people and a few that are not quite so honest, and some people who are going, no matter what he says, I'm not putting my hand up, and some people who it's working. But let's just say that websites generally don't create leads. Now you think, why is that? What's wrong with my website? For me, it's two things. One, it's traffic. You're not getting enough people to your site. And two, it's conversion. If you did get a load of people to the site wouldn't convert them into leads, because there are things that you need to do and change about your website in order to improve those two key performance indicators in order to get your website working. And by the way, one of the things that you can do to get your website working is to drive traffic from this website called LinkedIn into your website. I get over 1,000 people to our website every month from LinkedIn. And that costs me nothing. That's not paid advertising or anything like that. And that's nothing that you couldn't do either. So, you know, if you're thinking about paid advertising on Google, for example, £2 a click, that's going to cost you 2,000 quid, and I can get that same well, not the same traffic, but I can get traffic from LinkedIn for absolutely zero. So that in itself, I think, is something worth thinking about. Okay, one more thing before we go on and talk about LinkedIn. Many years ago, I've learned my craft, my skills, by listening and learning from the best marketers, salespeople, business growth experts in the world. And I always remember learning very early on from a guy called Jay Abraham. Check him out on YouTube. Some of his stuff's still there and still great. And Jay said there are only 3 ways of growing a business. He said the first one is to get more customers. The second one is to increase the average transaction value, the average amount of money each customer spends each time they buy. And the third one is to increase the frequency of repurchase. He then asked, what's the hardest thing to do? And the answer to that is to get new customers, to sell to strangers, in other words. And you know, the great thing I think about LinkedIn is that it helps us turn people from strangers into prospects, into customers. It's not about, you know, and I get this on LinkedIn, and I'm sure you do. You know, somebody says to me, would you like to connect, Steve, on LinkedIn? Because I've been looking at your website and I think it'd be great to connect. And I go, yes. And they immediately, within like 3 seconds, send me a pitch trying to sell me something that's clearly a pre-recorded, you know, message. And it just doesn't work. You know, I don't believe. I think it takes a little bit more nurturing, a little bit more time to take people from strangers to customers. And often people are so keen to try and sell things that they miss out on that vital step. Let me just share my screen just for a couple of seconds with you. Let me just go in here. I produced this ages ago, actually. It's based on interestingly, it's based on a book by a guy called Daniel Priestley. I don't know whether you know of Daniel, but he's a great guy. Really, I've learned a lot from him over the years. And the book is called The Key Person of Influence. Strongly recommend you buy it. I'm not on commission. Go and get it on Amazon or whatever. In fact, if you contact him, he might even be doing, like, you know, occasionally does free copies he'll send out, but you'll get it for whatever, a tenner on Amazon. Absolutely fantastic. I've adapted this slightly from what Daniel says, but it's the same principle. And that is the journey that you have to take people on to get people to marry them, as I've put it. You know, if I wouldn't go up to strangers in the street and say, hi, my name's Steve Mills, would you like to marry me? No, I wouldn't, Steve, because I think you're raving mad. You're trying to sell me on the idea of spending time, effort, and so on being, you know, your partner, and I don't even know who you are. So we need to think about on LinkedIn in the same way. So we need to focus to start with on who do we know and who knows me. Am I connected to enough people? What am I doing to connect to more people, to build my connections? Ideally, only of people that know you, but if not, and as well as people who are within your target market. Now, I know that goes against LinkedIn principles. I know LinkedIn say you must only connect to people that you know, but I want to grow my business. So, I'm connected to just short of 11,000 people, which is more than most, less than some. But they're all people who I'm in the process of building a relationship with. We've then got to get to a level where we meet these people. It's like you guys, pretty much everybody here today is connected to me on LinkedIn. And now we're meeting. Some people I already know. Some people I've met several times. Some people are customers of mine. But I'm taking people today, I think and hope, from relative strangers. Some of you we don't know. We haven't got a relationship yet. You've probably been getting my emails. You've probably seen my LinkedIn posts and so on. But I want to get to a level called going for coffee, which is where we are now. We're going for coffee. We're meeting up. We're getting to know each other. We then take people to the next level where we develop some interest. You've attended this, you think, do you know that's Steve Mills? He seems a decent bloke, and he knows what he's on about, hopefully, and he doesn't seem full of bullshit, and so on and so forth. Yeah, I'm willing to meet him. I'm willing to go on that first date or that first meeting. We then want to turn that into a sale. We're hoping that, I'm hoping here today that some of you might want to meet me afterwards, and, maybe one or two of you might want to become a client of mine. There'll be no hard sell or anything like that. But if you do, that's great. And if you don't, that's not a problem. And then lastly, and the icing on the cake is where we turn that into continuity, where it's not just like, you buy my online LinkedIn training, which is 40 quid, 50, I think it's 50 quid actually, 50 quid, but it becomes an ongoing relationship where you buy from me on an ongoing basis. And that's the key. And that's the key, I think, I hope, I believe, for you guys as well, to develop that relationship as we go along. So I hope that sort of makes sense. So I'm going to move over to LinkedIn now and just talk about a few things and see if I can add some real value. So the first thing I always talk about on my seminars is your profile. It's almost like, you never get a second chance to create a great first impression. And there are a couple of key points to it, I think. One is things that, it's fairly basic and obvious, but having a half decent or a really good photo on here. Another thing is the banner. A lot of people have banners these days, but often they're not, they don't tell people what they do, what that company does, and how to get hold of them. So I like that. I like the idea of, this is who I am, this is what I do. And if you want to get hold of me, here's my contact details really, really early on. The next thing here that I think is really important, this is so important for all your marketing, and that is the headline. There's an old saying in advertising that the headline is the advert for the advert. And that is so true on your LinkedIn profile. So if this is the headline, if your problem is you're not getting enough leads and sales, then I can help. I've been helping others for over 28 years. Not the best headline, I'm sure. I'm sure I could come up with a better one, but not bad. Certainly better than Steve Mills, Managing Director, which is of zero interest to anybody ever. Okay, that people couldn't care what my job title is, which is what you're supposed to put there. So, testing different things here in this area here can make a big difference. And by the way, just going back to talking about websites, it's the same over there. You see people all the time. They've got a page on their website called Our Services. Can't you think of anything more interesting than our services? Even if it was accountancy services, marketing services, landscape gardening services, just so people knew more about what you did. And by the way, so Google knows where to index that page. Where does it index a page called Our Services? It doesn't know, because it doesn't know what that page is about. So it's really important to have your pages optimized for Google. Same as the About Us page. If you've got a page called About Us, you know, probably not the best. But anyway, I'm getting a little bit off tangent. So get that sorted. Get this bit here. This is your most important bit. Get all that sorted. Utilize this area here. This is a place where, again, a lot of people don't use. It's the featured something. In here, going in here, you can add video, you can add case studies, you can add testimonials, you can add PowerPoint presentations, you can add photos, you can add links to your website. All these are links to either videos, and I've got loads of them, but you sort of need at least 3. They're links to either a web page or a video. So, you know, why wouldn't you add those in there? And by the way, that also helps you with SEO. One of the keys to SEO on your website is to create links from what Google calls high credibility, ethical, and relevant websites. Well, I'm sure you agree LinkedIn falls under all those things. That section there's activity. Make sure you've done a decent amount of stuff on your About Us thing. I've divided it up, I think, fairly cleverly is not the right word, but I've divided it up into sections. Feel free to copy mine or adapt yours. I quite like that idea. I copied it from somebody else. I can't quite remember who. There's loads of other stuff here. I've not got time to go through all this, but, you know, other than to say, make sure you get your profile all up to date. The one bit I would just like to finish on as far as your profile's concerned is this bit here. Getting recommended on LinkedIn is just brilliant. You know, I've got 128 recommendations on LinkedIn. Now, it's not to try and impress you, it's just to impress upon you. Well, how have I got that? Well, I've asked. Because if you don't ask, you don't get. So you should, in my opinion, be aiming for at least 10 recommendations on there. But the important thing about these recommendations is, yes, it's okay to have them on LinkedIn, and that's a good thing. And you can share them, you know, you can post them out and so on. But if you looked at my website, it is literally covered in recommendations from people. I've also created a PDF, a document that I send to people that's called Don't Take My Word for It. And again, it's got all my 128 recommendations on LinkedIn, plus the other ones that I've accrued through my years of being in business. So, you know, it's something like 38 pages long. Now, I'm sure nobody's going to read it all, but, you know, the fact that there's loads and loads of stuff in there, my perception is that people look at it and think, oh, wow, that's great. You know, we've got loads of stuff here. So that's really important. Now, the next one, as I said to you when I showed you the graphic there, is how do you grow that list? You know, it's no use looking good if nobody's looking. So, you know, wherever you are, if you're starting out, if you've got 500, if you've got 1,000, 2,000, 10,000, 20,000 contacts, we need to be working on getting more. We need more new blood. We need to keep people, you know, growing in terms of connecting to new people. So that would be one thing I'd fully recommend. Again, you can do that many ways. I'll just go through a couple of them. If I go to my network here and click on that, I can go in here. Oh, I have hit the 11,000. I said I've got nearly 11,000. Not looked at it for a couple of weeks, but you know, I can go and have a look at my contacts by clicking on each of these 11,000 people. That probably gives me access to another 1,000 people per person. You with me? So that's whatever that is, a phenomenal amount of people. It's, I don't know, is it 1 million? I can't quite work it out. My brain's gone. But you understand that. But also down here, these are all the people that LinkedIn thinks it might be good for me to get to know, because LinkedIn knows me. It knows who I'm connected to, the type of people, where I'm based, what I do, and so on and so forth. So I can go and have a look at these people and connect to them. One slight word of warning, don't just go, Zoltan, yeah, what is he? Oh, right, yeah, okay. I know Baxter Story, they're a client of mine, I'm just going to connect to them. What I tend to do is go to his profile, have a look at who he is, his background and so on, and then in the connect bit, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click here, and then I'm going to, oh, Keith got kicked out by the looks of things. Let him back in. I'm going to add a note and say something like, hi Zoltan, my name's Steve Mills. We don't know each other, but I've done some work for Baxter Story and it'd be great to connect. So that's what I normally recommend. So if you're connecting to people that you don't know, I'd suggest you say, hi, my name is, you don't know me, but I'd like to connect to you because, and then come up with a reasonable reason why they should connect to each other. So, or you should connect to each other, should I say. So that's one way. Another way would be through groups, which I'll talk about in a couple of minutes. I'll show you that then. And yeah, they're the main things I'm going to talk to you about in terms of getting more connections. But just make sure, you know, all your customers are connected to you, the people that you know, the people you go networking with, your prospects, any inquiries, and so on and so forth. Does that make sense? I'm hallucinating that it does. Don't forget, I'm looking for questions soon. I'm just about there in terms of content. So let me just go back over to here. I want to talk to you about something now that, you know, it's great to have, you know, to look good on LinkedIn, to have all these contacts, but it's about how you're going to communicate with them. Now, the number one way I'd say by far is to pick up the phone and talk to them. We got on my phone, I don't know whether you can see this. Oh, I've turned it off, haven't I? On my phone, it says, pick me up and I'll make you money. That's what it says on the front of my phone when it's sat there, right? And that's there for a deliberate reason, to get me to pick up a phone and speak to people. So we're using a very modern digital marketing tool, but in a way, we're using it an old-fashioned way. So if Billy here, who's been a contact of mine for years, but if he was a new contact, hi Billy, Steve Mills here, just thought I'd give you a call. We're just connected on LinkedIn. And I don't know about you, but often on LinkedIn, when you connect to people, that's the last time you ever hear from them. So I always like to give people a quick call to say hi, find out a little bit more about what you're doing, tell you a bit about me. Not here to sell you anything, but if you've got a couple of minutes, would that be okay? 99 times out of 100, they say yes. And we've started down that road to get people to know, like, and trust me. That's ultimately your job, I think, as marketers. If people know, like, and trust you, know, like, and trust your company, and know, like, and trust your products and services, where are they going to go? Google it, or shall I go to that guy who I met on LinkedIn? Seems a really nice guy, built a relationship, sounded as though he knew what he was talking about, and I'm going to pick up the phone. You know, he picked up the phone, called me 3 weeks later. I need some help with a new website, for example, and he calls me rather than just Googling it or calling somebody else. That ultimately is the objective. So pick up the phone would be number one. Two, you want to be posting on here. If you're not doing that, if you went on to YouTube and you listened to some of the top marketers in the world, the guys that I listen to, they'll be telling you things like, and you're probably your eyes are going to pop out the head probably when I tell you this. They're going to be telling you, if you're not posting at least 10 times a day on LinkedIn, you're wasting your time. Now, that for me, that makes me pop my eyes out of my head, because that's a lot. And I'm sure they've got massive companies and teams of people. But my point would be, post as often as you can. Don't worry about bombarding people, because 90% of the time people are not watching it. You know, if I posted now, you know, unless you're on this, how many times, if I'm posting 4 or 5 times a day on LinkedIn, which I am, how many times are you guys reading my posts? Do you read all of them? I know you don't, because nobody does. And so, it's a matter of trying to appeal to me at the time when I am on LinkedIn. So we need to be posting several times a day. Okay. People come to me and say, well, I'm really busy on LinkedIn. I post on there twice a week because I don't want to bombard people. Well, if you imagine that only 2% of your target market will read your post and you've got 1,000 contacts, you can see that ain't going to work. We need to get ourselves out there on a regular basis. And the last thing on this I want to show you is in here. If you go into Discover More, there's a great opportunity here around producing newsletters. Let me just tell you what happens. I got a newsletter here. If you set up a newsletter right now, and all that means is, you go in there. Let me just show you mine so you can see it. Okay, so that's basically what it is. It's a banner with some articles underneath it. You can see there various things that I've done. I do a post every week. Every week I do a new post. I've got 1,385 subscribers, which is not bad. I've only had it set up a little while. I've done 33 weeks roughly. So it's been, just over 6 months I've been doing this. And I go to create and I can add a new one. It's really easy to do. It couldn't be easier. But what LinkedIn does right now, which they weren't doing back 6 months ago, is they're sharing this with loads and loads of people. One of my clients, Mike Wilkinson, I told him about it. He said, look, you got to set this up. He set it up. He did a post. And immediately he had 250 subscribers, 250 people. Where did they come from? Mike didn't do anything. LinkedIn sent that newsletter out to loads of people without Mike even knowing, and 250 subscribed. The following week, he did the same thing. He got about another 250. Week after that, he did the same thing. He got another 250. You get the picture here. Yeah, so this will work. Now, the good news about this is when I go in here and create a new edition, right, this gets sent to all these people, not by me, by LinkedIn. I write a new article, and an article could be, I don't know, 500 words, 1,000 words, perhaps a video. I might do that one time, and it gets sent. When I say sent, I don't mean it appears on their LinkedIn. It gets emailed to them. LinkedIn send the email out on my behalf because I've set up a newsletter. So it's a great way of building a world, if you will, a load of people who subscribe, 1,385 people, who I can get a marketing message out, telling them about the various things that I'm doing for free. And hopefully that number in another 3 months is going to hit the 2,000 mark. So that, I think is an absolute an utter no-brainer, and I'd strongly recommend that you take a look at that. So I've sort of got to, I think, just over the 20 minutes, so I'm going to stop my further sharing stuff, but I'm happy to try and help you further. So any questions, comments about anything that I've said, or any questions about anything to do with LinkedIn? John?
Again, thank you very much for that, Steve. There's a lot of prompts there that people are taking for granted. So if you didn't know some of the stuff, it's really good value listening to what you say.
Thank you.
There was a lot of value to that. Just very quickly, I spoke to someone the other day who said that because I do direct canvassing, I treat LinkedIn like I do telesales.
Okay.
But some people like it, some people don't, but it gets me results. So it's personal to my business. You do what you do for you.
Yeah.
Right? But one of the crippling things, and I've always been told, what if, don't build your castle in someone else's backyard. I think you know who I'm talking about there. But I've been told there's going to be a heavy restriction on cold searches and connections to something like ridiculous, like 10 a week or something. Is that true?
Joe, I've heard the same thing. I don't know. I can't imagine it. I think what they might do is limit it for people who are on the free membership. And, you know, so they're giving a major advantage to people who are paying LinkedIn, you know, to be on one of the premium memberships. I think that's where it's going. It's, you know, it's rather than it being, yes, it is free, but it's free if it's limited, and you got to pay if you want to upgrade with that. That's what I think might be happening, John.
Yeah, I think Keith, you might know a bit more about this, eh?
Well, the 10 number is it to do at the moment. The last 10 number I heard was to do with limiting the number of personal messages you can send with a connection request on a free account. That used to be unlimited, and I always would recommend if you're requesting an invitation to connect, you should always give a reason with it with a little note, and I'm sure Steve would back that up.
Yeah.
Now, what they've done is they've said, right, we're going to take away the ability to send that personal message to, you can only have a maximum of 10 per month, which to me is slightly counterintuitive, because that would encourage you to send invitation requests without messages. You wouldn't be able to send more than 10. So if you want to connect with more than 10 people a month, which I think Steve would say, yeah, it's essential you connect with more than 10 people a month. If you've got a free account, you can only send 10 messages. So what you have to do is speculatively send a connection request to the people that you want to connect with, say on this call, and hope that it triggers that, oh yeah, I've seen that guy, he was on the call today, I'll accept. And then you send them a message saying, great to see you on Steve's call, thanks for connecting, let me know if I can help in any way. So you have to kind of do a workaround, which is a bit of a faff. But the important thing about having that first message in the message thread is it points to exactly dates and locates where you met. So I can go back to anybody in my connections who I've messaged at any time and see the first message in the thread from 2 years ago, and that says, great to see you at the Omni networking meeting in Farnham today, can we connect? And that times and dates when you first met, which can be very useful in terms of your managing your networks.
It's almost like a CRM system, isn't it? You know, where you can look back.
Yeah, simple. Yeah.
I mean, LinkedIn has been quite fundamental, especially with my last year's, I say growth, but it does play an important asset in terms of moving forwards, because you can telesales, and I love cold calling. Telesales, give me a database. There's not a better day if I haven't got a list of people to call, for me personally, on a daily basis.
Do you do this for other people as well, John, or is that just the way you market yourself?
It's just the way I market myself, but watch this space. But to be honest with you, LinkedIn is a great canvassing tool, and I'm sure Keith, you'll disagree with me on this, but me personally, if I don't kick the backside out of it, you know, I generally, if I'm going to concentrate on a specific amount of time and in a specific area, again being targeted at the person I want to speak to and the type of people I want to speak to, I actually tie up Google Maps with LinkedIn. So what I'll do is I'll go on Google Maps and say, right, give me solicitors in a 2-mile radius of Farnborough, let's say, and it will list all of the ones, and the ones that are pinned as well on the maps. And then what I do is I go on LinkedIn and I look for them as a company, look for the people that work for that company, and select the person I need to speak to inside that company. And like you say, Steve, there's nothing better than picking the phone up. And sometimes the phone numbers will be in their contact details. And why you wouldn't have your phone number and your contact details on LinkedIn, it boggles my mind, because you want to be reachable, don't you?
I see some people, and you just cannot you know, the only way of contacting them is through LinkedIn. It just blows my mind. I want to make it as easy as possible to contact me. You know, I'm like the most, you know, people say, oh, you've got your mobile on LinkedIn. Don't you get loads of nuisance calls? No, never.
Even if you do, they're only doing their job. But for me, the exact point, Steve, which is why LinkedIn is such a great tool, because you get around the gatekeepers.
Yeah.
You just pick up the phone book. People are trained to answer the phone, not to pass you on. And so, you know, getting around that gatekeeper is just a little bit harder. Whereas if you just send a direct message to them on LinkedIn saying, hey, I saw you were doing this, it interests me, it's probably worth us connecting.
I call it lukewarm calling. It's
Yeah.
I'm not cold calling people that I know to some level. All right, some of them I've never spoken to, but they've connected to me. You know, I've sent them messages and so on, which links me just to another thing, and that is one of my objectives is to get them out of LinkedIn as soon as possible. I don't mean not to market them within LinkedIn, but get them into my email system. So part of that initial call would be, if it's gone well, say, oh, do you mind? I've got like an email system. I have lots of tips and hints on how to market. You say, would you like to be a member of that? Oh, yeah, great, Steve. Off we go. And I've got another link there, you know, which is, you know, which works really, really well. So I've grown and growing my LinkedIn database through email on an ongoing basis. Keith,
And parallel to that, Steve, you're probably going to mention this anyway, but everybody should be downloading their LinkedIn connections every couple of months, which you can do very easily. And if you can't work out how to do it, just Google download LinkedIn connections. Because if you lose your account for any reason, it gets compromised or shut down by LinkedIn, you lose those 2,000 connections that's taken you 4 years to build up, unless you download them on a regular basis, and they'll send you an Excel spreadsheet of all your connections. So it's a backup, really.
Really good advice. That definitely. You know, why wouldn't you want to do that? I can't think of a reason. So yeah, well worth doing. Any other questions? Yeah, John?
It's more of a comment, really.
Okay.
It's profile pictures.
Yeah.
There's nothing worse than seeing a silhouette or someone sitting on the beach with a beer on their chest.
No.
Saying this is my professional profile and I want to speak to serious people. I mean, everything you've done with your profiling is brilliant, but the photo doesn't match the messaging that you're trying to put out there. I mean, does Richard Branson really want to see you with your top off, or does he want to see you sitting there in clothes in a position that represents what you do for a living?
I couldn't agree more. You know, I've got a contact of mine, you know, it's got this picture and it's got this top of his head cut off. It's clearly too close. You know, he's in a t-shirt with I forget what it is. He's got some sort of saying that, you know, Nescafe or whatever, you know, it's one of those t-shirts. It just doesn't fit, does it? You know, it's like, you know, and also within that, I'd say whatever your brand is built around your website, you know, the rest of it should look the same. You know, if you look at my background now, you know, that is in keeping. Just letting somebody else in, is in keeping with my website. You know, my background and my website sort of look the same, as does my LinkedIn profile, as does my Facebook and my YouTube profile. It's all about brand consistency here, isn't it? You know, we need to look professional. We need to make sure that brand is throughout our marketing, whether it's your email banner or your Facebook banner or your LinkedIn banner. But I think in particular, John, with what you're doing on LinkedIn, it should be that professional photo. You get away with it on Facebook. You know, I could have a picture of me playing ping pong on Facebook. Probably wouldn't, but I could. But on LinkedIn, it needs to be professional. I think you're absolutely right.
Would you mind if I put on my LinkedIn profile into the chat, so if anyone wants to connect?
Yeah. Everybody could do that. If you want to do that, you want to connect to each other. Yeah.
Always best to ask permission first, mate, especially when it's your gig.
Yeah. No. Absolutely. I'm all for it. And you know, in fact, if you want, you could do that if you want, and if you don't want, you could email me, and I will email your LinkedIn out to everybody when I've got them all in, and we can all connect to each other. Why not? It's not going to hurt, is it? So it's always a good thing to do. Yes.
Another quick profile picture tip, John. John, talking to John now. So shut up, John. Get out. Steve, is that? But make sure that your profile picture is publicly visible. Some people have their profile picture set so that it can only be seen by connections.
Yes.
And the problem with that is that when you send an invitation request to somebody you're not connected with, LinkedIn will not show them your photo. So you get a request without a photo, which is much less likely to be accepted. So I'm sure everybody here's got that sussed, but that's worth doing.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, absolutely. One more little tip, two more little tips actually. If you look on your profile page, you'll see something called creator mode. That is worth turning on and just going through and doing what LinkedIn tell you to do. So go and turn creator mode on. And the other one that I've got is if you go to Google and type in social selling index, you'll see a page come up. You go in there, you put your details in, and it'll rate you on LinkedIn. How good are you? It'll say, right, this person is 68% on LinkedIn, and it'll tell you what you need to do in order to improve what you've already got. I will just add something to that. I'm not a massive fan of it, but it's worth sticking your details in and seeing what it says. You know, it's free. You can just go and get yourself rated on LinkedIn. Okay, how are we doing? We're 12:44. We're spot on time. Right, I got a little pitch for you. Okay, so it's not really a pitch, it's just an offer. If you would like to book a meeting with me, let me just share my screen so I can show you where to go. If you want to book a meeting, I'm offering everybody the opportunity of meeting up with me. Now, I want to be really clear about this. This is not for me to pitch you on what I do. The meeting's going to last 45 minutes. It's a one-to-one meeting. It's done online. So we do it online on Zoom. And it would be to talk about LinkedIn if you want, but talk about your marketing. And I'm going to genuinely try to help you. At the end, I'd like to spend 5 minutes just telling you a bit about my results mastery program and why I think that might be of value for you. If I genuinely do think it might be of value, so you could do that. So to book that call, go to steve-mills.com, which is my website. Click on that link there. That'll give you access to my diary via Calendly. You've probably seen this before. And by the way, if you haven't, this is a really good tool for you to use on your website and or on your LinkedIn. So I can go onto LinkedIn and say, hi, everyone. If you want to book a meeting with me to talk about your marketing, here's a link to my diary. Just go ahead and do it. So people can go in here and book a meeting whenever they want, you know, and so on. So you can see the days I'm available and the times, and just go in there and book by 11:30, put your name and details in, job's done. So it's really good. It's really good from a point of view of saving, you know, all the faffing that we do, where I go to Keith, hi Keith, would you like to meet? Yeah, sure. He emails me back and I go, what about next Tuesday at 2? No, I can't do that, Steve. Wednesday at 3? No, I can't do that. What about Thursday at 4? No. You know, we all have that email thing, don't we? Whereas I just go, Keith, here's a link to my diary. Pick a time that's convenient to you. And he just goes through and does it. And that's it. So it's brilliant, I think. Saves a lot of time and a lot of hassle. So we're just about finished. Thanks ever so much for being here. As you know, this is the first in my weekly sessions. Next week, I'm covering YouTube mastery. If you want to attend that, you're very welcome to. I'll send you details out. I think after that, it's website mastery, and so on and so forth. You probably gather I'm branding them all as something mastery each week. So I'm doing them every week for the year. So yeah, so quite good. So and by the way, if you don't mind, if I could ask a favor, if you see my stuff on LinkedIn promoting these events, if you don't mind liking it, commenting, and ideally sharing it with other people so more people can benefit. Okay, great. Thank you ever so much. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got something out of it. And if you did, what I really hope is that you use it, because that's what's going to get results. Thanks for listening. See you again sometime. Cheers.
Thank you. Steve.
Thank you.